welcome back to the 12th Man podcast. Of course, we've had a couple of weeks break. I've been on holidays. There's been an international break, but don't worry, we're going to kick off by talking about the weekend that we've seen before the international break, including Liverpool beating Arsenal, title rivals 1-0. A fantastic Dominic Szoboszlai free kick. We'll also talk about transfer deadline day, of course. Liverpool finally landed Alexander Isak, but did miss out on Mark Guehi. What impact will that have in Liverpool's season? We'll look at some of the other big moves, including Wissa moving to Newcastle, Man City landing a new goalkeeper in Donnarumma, and many more. And we'll look at all of the games this weekend and talk about the clubs in depth. Of course, the weekend starts with Arsenal and Nottingham Forest. Of course, Big Ange is back. What people may think of him, we'll find out. But we'll certainly talk about that game and the other 9 games, including the Manchester derby on Sunday at 4:30 between City and United. If you're new around here, you can fire in comments and we'll put them on the screen. Any questions you want to ask us, we will answer them to the best of our ability. And don't feel free to get involved with the topics or the predictions later on. So, Owen, I suppose I better ask you how you are, because I haven't spoken to you for a couple of weeks on this podcast. But we're back. The Premier League is back. I'm sure you're looking forward to it.
It's been long, especially because, as per usual, our national team is an embarrassment. So it'll be good to get back to the proper football now at the weekend.
I suppose I'll start by asking you about that. I mean, I was just on Chris Coylan's podcast there doing the Premier League predictions, and he asked me how I was before we started, but like how I asked you. And I says, I'm glad the international break's over because of how poor Ireland were. Of course, that battle back from 2-0 down to get a point against Hungary, albeit against 10 men. They targeted 3 points in that game, but in the end, maybe not a bad point. I think everyone expected them to follow that up with a decent performance out in Armenia.
Yeah,
ranked 105th in the world. But no, Ireland beaten 2-1, and that is technically their worst ever defeat in a competitive game. It's the lowest ranked opposition. Cyprus was the lowest ranked. They beat Ireland 5-2 in 2006. But this Ireland group have trumped that by losing to a team 3 places below that. Armenia, 105th ranked in the world. I mean, this is a team that lost 6-1 to Georgia recently, 5-2 to Kosovo, and they've beaten Ireland by 2 goals to 1. I mean,
Portugal too, though, before that.
Yeah, they were beat 5-0 by Portugal, albeit Portugal are a top team. But, I mean, is that it for Ireland? I mean, is that any hope of qualifying gone?
You would think so, because realistically, we have to beat Portugal home and away. And let's just say the most optimistic of Irish fan, it would be going into delusion if we think we're going to get like any points against them, either home or away. It was just abject, wasn't it? Like I went on with a bit of confidence after that Hungary result. Boyd after the comeback. Yes, it was against 10 men, but still, the best of it was we started all right. We had a chance to clear off a line from Evan Ferguson, but after that it just crumbled, and I would say that's it for how the manager. I would say he's I don't know why he got the job.
It sounded like in his interview after the game, he knew that after these 4 remaining games, his contract won't be extended, and Ireland will yet again be moving on to someone else. But the one thing I would say is there's been a lot of chopping and changing with the national team. Of course, there was Martin O'Neill, and then we had McCarthy, and then we had Stephen Kenny, and then we had Hogrimson. And I mean, it all appears to be very similar problems where Ireland are struggling now to beat teams below them in the rankings.
Yeah.
Will a change in manager do anything, do you think? I mean, we've tried different styles, different types of managers. We've now tried a foreign manager again since, I know McCarthy was kind of English, but he does have an Irish connection. This is kind of the first foreign manager since Trapattoni. Yeah. That hasn't worked unless there's a minor miracle in these remaining 4 games. I mean, is there any point changing? I know they have to do it, but do you envisage somewhere down the line? No, we might be lucky with the Euro 2028. We might get a host spot, but in terms of actually qualifying ourselves on merit, do you foresee similar problems for a new manager?
It's just the quality of the squad. Like you would think it's there, but as we seen on Tuesday night, we have Premier League defenders and Premier League level players, some Premier League level players, and they look like they hadn't kicked the ball.
I mean, that is one of the biggest arguments that went against Stephen Kenny, and it's going to go against Hallgrimsson, is if Ireland had lost both games to Portugal, I don't really think anyone's going to be up in arms about it. But the fact that we lost to Armenia, we lost to Luxembourg at home under Stephen Kenny, who were ranked 98th in the world. Why do you feel that Ireland are struggling to beat these teams, which on paper, like you say, with Premier League players, it should be formality?
It's just maybe this is probably controversial to say, but a lot of the Irish players aren't actually Irish. Like we have a lot of English players, and we've seen it down the line. Like we've had players like Declan Rice and Jack Grealish, and if half of them players were good enough, they'd be playing for England. So
you sense that there's you don't really fancy it.
It seems like it's just, we'll get international caps for some countries, so we may as well pick Ireland.
I have to say it's all doom and gloom now, because I think even though Premier League football fans don't really enjoy these international breaks, I think from the Ireland point of view this time around, the Nations League was decent for them in terms of the results they got. There was a bit of cautious optimism going into these games. Everyone fancied Portugal, they won the group. But between Ireland, Hungary and Armenia, Irish fans seen we can get points against these two teams and maybe even get a playoff. But that all seems to have been taken away in the last 4 or 5 days over those course of the two games. And like you pointed out, we still have to play the strongest team in the group twice. Now, the next two games are Portugal away and Armenia at home, followed by Portugal at home and Hungary away in November. Realistically, is there any hope there that we can sneak in second? I mean, Hungary are also only on 1 point, but do you have to play Armenia twice? Or maybe have Armenia thinking, well, maybe this could be our chance to get a playoff? I mean, how do you see it? Do you expect, Ireland probably need Portugal to clean up in their games, and then it becomes a three-way fight between Hungary and Armenia. If Ireland could beat Hungary away and Armenia at home, there may be an outside chance. But I mean, that even seems like a tall order. One of those two games.
I've no confidence in us beating Armenia even at home at this point. Hungary away, I think, is a write-off as well, to be honest. Because I think if Hungary hadn't got their man sent off, they would have went on to win the game, in my opinion. So it's just
we'll move on from this very depressing topic.
Let's look back. I was going to say just before I finish, it's not even just on the pitch; it's off the pitch as well. The FAA is just a mess.
No, that doesn't look good. I mean, I think what Ireland need to do now is obviously they're going to have a European qualifying campaign. Well, they'll have the Nations League and then they'll have this Euro 2028. Now, it's looking like with Northern Ireland pulling out, and obviously Casement Park's not going to be used. There's 4 teams hosting. Now, from what I understand is the 4 teams are going to be made to play the qualifiers. But if at least two of the home nations qualify, the other 2 will get a spot. So
that'll be our only hope.
Qualify. They only need England, Scotland, and Wales. 2 of them. I mean, England's you'd feel their shirts, and Scotland and Wales, to be fair, are doing quite well in campaigns recently. So there's every chance Ireland may well get in the back door. But I think what's really important for Ireland now is, the next manager, if it is, if Hal Grimson's contract isn't extended, which I don't think it will, is get a manager in that's going to lead us into that.
Who do you go for? Damien Duff, or
I think you have to be looking at someone like Brendan Rodgers, because I think it's possibly his last season at Celtic. Now, maybe Brendan Rodgers may want to go back to the Premier League, but I think in terms of stellar names and top appointments, I think Rodgers would be at the top of the list. But whether they've got the finances to do it is another question. Like you pointed out, the FAI have been a mess for quite some time.
Well, we'll move on to more exciting topics now, because this is just depressing.
Let's look back at the third week in the Premier League. Of course, that was the weekend just before the international break. I was actually in Puerto Rico, Gran Canaria, watching these games, and I have to say it was a good weekend of football. Owen, let's start by obviously the big game going into the weekend was Liverpool Arsenal. I mean, it wasn't the greatest game in the world, but we often see this between 2 top teams, cancel each other out, and a bit of magic sometimes separates it, and a bit of magic did separate this. A fantastic free kick by Dominic Szoboszlai. They won it for Liverpool, and a big one for Liverpool against which you would feel is going to be their closest rival for the title. I and wasn't convincing. I don't think Liverpool have been convincing in the opening 3 games, but they've got 9 points, and they still have a better Mo Salah to look forward to, and they still have Alexander Isak to come on. So it seems to be ticking along well for Arne Slot and Liverpool at the moment.
As you say, we haven't in these games we could have easily walked away with nothing because Bournemouth came back. Newcastle came back, and then the Arsenal game, as you say, a moment of magic. But hey, I'll take 9 points from 9. But I remember this time last season, coming back from the first international break, we lost our first game back. So fingers crossed that doesn't happen again. But no, it wasn't, as you say, it wasn't a great game. But for me, it's been that long ago now, I bloody can't remember what happened that well. But it seemed to be, it was your typical Arsenal performance. Like sit back, try and nick a goal, try and nick a goal from a set piece. Arsenal, yes, they had a lot of possession, but same as us, really, they didn't really create anything. But as I said at the time, Arsenal don't want to lose games. They don't want to win games. They just don't want to lose games. If that makes sense, they're afraid to lose rather than go for the win.
Do you read much into that game? Because it looked very much like 2 teams of a very similar level that were separated by a wonder. I mean, if an Arsenal player had done what Silva's done, Arsenal would have won the game 1-0. And, I think Arsenal have got a lot of criticism out of the game. But, I mean, it was just a moment. Do you envisage that this is going to be a very tight race between these 2 teams this year?
Probably, but the thing with Arsenal is they always do this in big games. It's not an isolated. They always try and hit you for a set piece or get one goal in front, and then the only game I've seen them I know we're on it, but the Leeds game, why don't they play like that against? Yes, Leeds are a weaker opposition, but they have the quality. They open up teams, so I don't know why.
You feel there was an overbearance on not losing the game at Anfield as opposed to trying to win it.
Yeah, because Arsenal haven't won at Anfield. Arsenal haven't won at Anfield since Arteta was actually playing for them back in 2011, 12, I think it was.
And I'm all for bantering Arsenal fans, but not many teams won at Liverpool, so it's not to say that it's a big shock. But look, I think if Arsenal had got a point, they'd have been happy. But they're playing catch up now on Liverpool, and of course we'll look ahead to the weekend's games very soon. But of pressure because you would expect Liverpool to beat Burnley, so there'll be pressure on that Arsenal game on Saturday at 12:30 against Forest. But on some of the other results of the weekend, Chelsea, it all started off with Chelsea, a 2-0 win against Fulham, a very controversial goal disallowed at Fulham's behest. And I mean, the apology, to be fair, was right and quick after the game. They didn't waste much time in apologizing to Fulham.
We're seeing this all the time. They're apologizing to Fulham, but that's not going to give them the 3 points or the point that they would have got. But for me, that was probably, out of all the decisions we've seen over the seasons, that's probably one of the worst.
Look, everybody can get. Everybody can get decisions. Everyone can get decisions wrong, right? And I suppose watching it live, watching it on a screen numerous times, maybe you start to see things that aren't there. But I think as much as you can blame the VAR for sending them over to the screen, I do think the referees have to be stronger when they're at the screen. They've got to be brave when they're at the screen. If the VAR is obviously convinced the referee that he's seen something that the referee hasn't seen in live play, and like you say, he just puts his foot down in a natural way. And yes, he catches the player, but it's if anything, it's a 50-50. Would they have given a free kick? I mean, so a very, very. I mean, we're told it's supposed to be clear and obvious, and there's nothing clear and obvious about it. And look, it had a big impact because Fulham would have been 1-0 up, and they went on to lose the game 2-0. And look, the penalty decision for the second goal again, I think it's a very 50-50 call, and that went against Fulham as well. So Fulham have every right to feel aggrieved, and I do look. There's a lot of time in games to turn things around, but I do feel this decision in the first half had a big impact on the game.
100%. And as you say, the penalty one was a bit strange for me. Do I think it was a penalty? Probably, but did João Pedro not handball the ball before it got to that point? But for the one, the one for the disallowed goal was very strange because the referee's explanation was it was a reckless challenge, and you're going, there was nothing reckless about it. He put his, and I don't blame Chelsea here. It's not their fault. This week it could be Liverpool benefiting from it, Spurs benefit. It's just there's no agenda against any team. It's just the refs are just poor and the VAR is just poor.
There's been a number of decisions that's being questioned, and we're only in 3 weeks in, and that is worrying. Owen, moving on to the 3:00 games.
Remember the Liverpool Bournemouth game where your man should have been sent off as well with a handball?
Yeah, the handball. He missed that one. Moving on to the 3:00 games. Spurs, who were 2 out of 2, took on Bournemouth, who were, as you said, were unlucky not to leave Anfield with something. They followed that up with a home one against Wolves, so it was always going to be a difficult game. But Bournemouth won the game 1-0, and look, in the end, that probably flattered Spurs. Bournemouth were by far the better team. Did that surprise you, that result? Because obviously Spurs would have been favourites coming on it just after beating Man City, beat Burnley quite convincingly in the opening weekend. You know, the PSG game, Spurs looked good in that game as well, despite losing on penalties. But they never hit any of those levels against Bournemouth. Now, Bournemouth were very good on the day, but Spurs played nowhere near the level that we've seen them in the games against PSG, Burnley, and Man City.
No, it was I think if I remember back then, Bournemouth was like 19 shots or something that day, and
they were pretty convincing like on the day.
So they were very unlucky just to have one goal. But does the result surprise me? Not really, because none surprised me. Like Spurs are the type of team that would go and beat Man City and then lose. They like Bournemouth. No disrespect to Bournemouth, but they're not a Man City. But as you said to me at the time, it could be the thing that makes Franco right. I don't know who I can trust and who I can't really. So it's and he's have Kolo Muani to come on now, and the big one obviously is Xavi Simmons. So it'll be interesting to see how he utilises them. But I'm not who are Spurs playing this weekend. I'm not too sure.
West Ham away. We'll come on to speak about the predictions, but it was a poor afternoon. I think Tom criticized it was not what he expected, and it wouldn't be accepted. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of performance we see on Saturday at West Ham from Spurs. Man City 1-0 up against Brighton, the same as last season, and found a way to lose 2 goals they won. And that Man City won at Wolves now 4-0 seems like a long time ago. They've lost the Spurs at home 2-0 and Brighton away 2-1. And 1 or 2 question marks around Man City at the moment. What have you made of them so far?
Again, same as you. Like after the first week against Wolves, I thought, right, I didn't think they were back, but I thought, right, they're somewhat near their best. And then Spurs played them off the park, and the Brighton game was a strange one because
Wolves have lost all their games too. So it's reading under that result maybe it's been the wrong thing to do for people.
The Brighton one was a strange one because up until Brighton equalised, they were all over them. But I noticed a pattern in Man City. It's they seem to get 1-0 up and just take their foot off the gas and just think they can pass teams to death. But they used to be able to do that, but the league's a lot more intense now and teams won't let you do that. But I saw a thing on X or Twitter, whatever. It was Pep Linders. No, it was a Liverpool fan account going, "Keep doing what you're doing," because they're getting a lot of injuries at the minute as well. So maybe something to look into. But I don't know. There's just something not right there for me at the minute. And Donnarumma, as much as he's a great shot stopping goalkeeper, we'll speak about it. But Pep loves a goalkeeper that's good with his feet, and he's not really renowned for that. But in the end, I think Brighton deserved the one because Herzler has to get credit because if I remember right, he made 4 substitutions, and that completely flipped the game on its head.
Yeah, certainly a big game in Manchester on Sunday, the Manchester derby. But I think there's a lot of jeopardy in the game, and let's talk about the other half of Manchester. Of course, they left it very late to beat Burnley. After losing to Grimsby in penalties in the midweek, they left it, I think it was the 97th minute via the penalty spot. They beat Burnley. And I mean, do you think they were fortunate they won this game? Burnley competed, had a goal rolled out for a marginal offside too. And of course, the lit penalty was a silly challenge that the defender made. gifted United the
I
opportunity to win the game.
don't know why he pulled it back again.
Yeah, and United get their first
But
one of the
I don't
season
know.
and their first goals from open play in the Premier League, and just about hooker by crook got their 3 points. Is it all better at Man United, or do you think it's a big uphill battle?
No, we've seen this before. It's an uphill battle, I would say, but I don't know if they were fortunate in it because I watched the first half of this game and they probably should have been out of sight. That would worry me if I was a United fan. Even with all this attacking talent, they're still not scoring a lot of goals. I know they scored 2 from open play, but against Burnley, but they're creating chances, but they're just not scoring a lot of goals. But I'm hearing that Cunha and Mount could be both out for this game, so it'll be interesting to see how they set up. But it's a strange one because both teams aren't really setting the world on fire at the minute, so it'll definitely be an interesting watch.
United actually have more points than Man City on this game. Man City on 3.
I know United are ahead of Man City.
So let's talk about the transfer window. Of course, it's shut on Monday, the 1st of September. There was a number of deals that were going on in the lead up to deadline day, and we weren't sure if they were going to get done or time was going to run out. But a lot of the big deals happened. Of course, the 2 big sagas of the summer involved Newcastle United. One in trying to keep hold of Isak, and 2 trying to get Wissa. Both happened in terms of they both moved on. Isak ends up at Liverpool for around about £125 million. A British transfer record for a player. And that comes after Liverpool spent, of course, 116 million on Florian Wirtz. And a number of our players have moved on. Yes, they've sold players as well, but they signed £200 million players in the one window. It's kind of unheard of. But it happened, Owen. I think you were pretty confident throughout the summer it was going to happen. So what's your thoughts now that Alexander Isak is a Liverpool player?
I'm buzzing to be honest. Like I said throughout the summer, once Newcastle got the replacement, I knew he would come in, and thankfully I've been proven right now. Well, we see him play for an hour while is another thing, because I think he only played 20 minutes for Sweden across the 2 games. So I think on Sunday against Burnley, I think against Burnley he'll start on the bench. But he's not a bad option to have if you need him for 20 minutes to come on and they change something. But no, I'm buzzing with it. Yes, it could have been handled better from him, but we'll speak about it when we come on to the Liverpool transfer target, who didn't say nothing all summer.
We're going to say we'll come on to talk about Wissa, but I was just going to stick with Liverpool here because our top target that they wanted was Mark Guehi, but they missed out on him. Of course, Crystal Palace pulled the plug at the last minute, despite a deal being agreed and the player having a medical, and he'd also done a farewell video, which leaked online, remarkably. But apparently he was very upset after. But as you said, he conducted himself pretty well throughout the summer and didn't get his move because apparently the manager, Oliver Glasner, had threatened to walk away if he was sold with no replacement. I'll give you my opinion on this before you come in. I know you'll speak about the rest of the players, but just in regard to Guehi, I don't know if Palace were ever willing to sell him. I mean, like, if 35 million is not a hard deal to do, right? So if they were waiting to make sure they were getting into the Conference League, why did they not have a replacement lined up? I mean, Liverpool were always going to put up 35. It wasn't like it was the Isak money where, it was going to be a case of Liverpool having to find the money. They were always going to have 35 million to do the deal. So why did Crystal Palace on deadline day all of a sudden start having to look for a replacement, and they were never going to get one in the time frame that they had? Definitely not one of Guehi's quality. So, did they lead the player on here? Did they lead him on in terms of after the European games, we'll sell you for the 35 million? The chairman says we need the money because we don't lose him for free. I mean, were they ever going to go through with this deal? Because surely, if they were going to, they would have had a replacement lined up.
No, I agree with you. It seems a strange one, and if I was Guehi, I'd be very disappointed. But I don't think it'll kick up much of us think about it. But for me as a fan, I'm disappointed because I do think we're short. Not on quality, because I think Gomez is a top centre half on his day, but he's just not reliable fitness wise. Sorry, we don't know much about
Gomez. Even if you rate Gomez highly. surely
Yeah.
a club that's competing in 4 competitions with every chance of winning surely should have more than 3 senior centre backs. I mean that's a lot of games to rotate
No,
3 players. And you say one of them is very injury prone, so
no, I
Van
agree.
Dijk
I agree.
played a lot of games last year, so there's always a chance that games could catch up this year. So
Yep.
that is the one area of Liverpool summer that they didn't get right. They got a lot right. I think if they had got Guehi on the door, that would have been a massive window, possibly one of the best we've ever seen. But I just think now, you'll
I
point
know
out
we
that
have
Van
that.
Dijk, Owen, that Van Dijk doesn't get injured that much, but freak injuries do happen.
Yeah.
And I think if Van Dijk had got
As we've
injured
seen
and you have
before.
Hincapie and Guehi, I think that's still a very strong partnership. I think if you go from
Yeah.
Konaté and Gomez, your heart will be in your mouth, because even in this early part of the season with Van Dijk, Liverpool have looked vulnerable defensively.
No, we definitely have that. But then we have that young boy Leone, who I'm not going to say I've watched because I haven't seen him play, but he's very highly rated. But I'm very disappointed we didn't get Guehi over the line. But I think when I'm sitting here this time next year, I think Guehi will be in the red shirt of Liverpool on a free transfer. So I do think it'll happen. Just not this summer, unfortunately, but I do think next season it'll be, because we're going to lose Konaté on a free. So Konaté on a free to Madrid, Guehi on a free to Liverpool. That's not bad. Like,
I actually think you're upgrading too, to be honest.
no, I agree with you.
But look, we'll come on to talk about the games very soon. But Wissa was an our man who cried for basically 3 months to get out, done everything he could, got his move to Newcastle. Look, I think Isak, Liverpool paid a lot of money, but I don't think anyone is saying, well, he's not worth it. Newcastle's first bid for Wissa was 25 million. They've ended up paying 55 million for a 29-year-old who was out of contract next summer. I mean, look, Newcastle wanted him. They clearly wanted him. They've also signed that other striker. But I mean, the sense of Brentford were happy enough to sell in the end, because I don't think anyone believes he's worth that kind of money.
No, and you know me, like we've talked about it. I don't really pay much attention to transfer fees, because at the end of the day, it's called out from the club that we're not going to go back out in January. So I think we're just going to wait. We're just going to wait the next summer and get him on a free. But as I was saying,
just on that too, I don't think it makes any sense for Palace to sell him for 20 million in January,
especially for having a World Cup year. Does he want to uproot and?
I just don't see. I mean, like, if they want 20 million from him in January, when Liverpool can basically on New Year's Day do a contract with him, and he's their player in the summer. So I just don't see that happen. I just think Palace, for the sake of 20 million, won't want to lose him middle of the season, especially with him being in Europe. You'd expect Crystal Palace to qualify for the next round of the Conference League. So
I would say it could be announced that he's joining Liverpool next summer in January, but I don't think.
Yeah, because the contract was done, so all they have to do is redo the contract that he agreed to. So,
and he'll probably get a better, for him. He'll probably get a better signing on fee, because it won't be a transfer fee. But as I was saying on Wissa, you know me, like I don't really pay much attention to transfer fees, because it's not my money at the end of the day. But 50 million is a lot for a 29-year-old, and let's be honest, he's had one good season in the Premier League. He hasn't really wrapped up trees other than last year. So it's a big risk for Newcastle, but I think it's not much, especially with their two forwards as well, because they have that young lad, Voltamata, who does look like, he looks like a giant. Like, he's 6'6", but he's not proven. But it'll be interesting to see how they work between Wissa and him, to see how they fit in. But it's, as we were saying, like, Wissa and Isak cried all summer to get their moves. They didn't. Then Guehi doesn't say a word and doesn't get his move. So does that set a precedent for future transfers?
Yeah, that's what we worried about. Next summer, will players look at that, go, well, the only way to get out is they fight tooth and nail, and potentially damage your relationship with a club, with your teammates, with your manager, with the fans especially. It's not a good look. I mean, what's the reception going to be like if Newcastle draw Liverpool in the Champions League or the FA Cup and they have to go to St James's Park? I mean, that is going to be Sol Campbell 2.0 vibes.
If we play Newcastle again at St James's Park, as you said, it's going to be, they're going to have to give them extra security or something.
Oh, and you mentioned that there when we were talking about the Spurs, losing to Bournemouth, that Xavi Simmons was to come in. Of course, he signed just before deadline day, and Spurs got Muani also on deadline day, who I don't know a lot about. I know the name, but I haven't really watched him that often.
No,
but he did score 16 goals in 22 games for Juventus on loan last year from January onwards. So he had a great run of form. Of course,
think he starts?
Yeah, and I think he will probably. And obviously as well, there's a lot of competition for the French national team. It's a World Cup year, so he needs to be playing regularly, and he's going to want to get on that French squad. I mean, do you think these two players could be a game changer for Spurs? You know, Muani's a lightning quick forward. He can finish. Xavi Simmons, who you know you're a big fan of, very trickery, can hit a ball, can dribble past players. He's quick. I mean, will this give Spurs a different look in the forward area?
Well, he's needed bodies in the forward area. He's needed creativity, and I've said this for a lot. Like, I watched Xavi Simmons last year at the Euros, and I thought obviously we went and got Wirtz, but if we hadn't have, I wouldn't have minded him coming in either. But and Chelsea wanted him as well. But then again, who don't they want to sign? So if I was a Spurs fan like yourself, I would be excited about these two players, because I'm not going to say I've watched a lot of Muani, but as you say, he's lightning quick. He can play off the left. He can play for the middle. He can sort of play as a number 10 at times as well. So decent signing, especially on loan. I'm not sure if there's an option to buy or not. Is there? Or
no, I don't believe so. No.
So it's a low risk, really, isn't it? If he does well, you can buy him. If he doesn't, send him back. But as you say about the French squad, like, look at their striking options: Mbappe, Ekitike, Muani, Dembele can play there. So you have to do it. Barcola, so he'll have to do it as well. So he'll have to do well.
They have an embarrassment of riches in that attacking area.
They'll have to do well to get on there.
I was going to mention Arsenal signing Hincapie, but we'll just talk about that actually, because we're going to move on to the Premier League preview, and Arsenal are up next, and you've already touched on Donnarumma anyway. So we'll speak about him a wee bit more when we come to look at the Manchester derby. So if anyone sees a few watching, if you want to stick on your predictions or ask any questions here,
what's your thoughts on Donnarumma?
Because I think if it's a Donnarumma seen in the Champions League for PSG, I think it's a great signing. But according to the French reports in the league, it was awful. So look, there's a reason they're selling him. We'll have to find out. But and it all starts on Friday or Saturday morning at 12:30. I mean, this probably looked like an ordinary of the Bull Premier League game, but TNT Sports must be rubbing their hands now that they've landed this fixture, because Big Ange is back. The man that says he's going to win and he delivers. He said in his press conference today, there's no reason why Forest can't win this season. Don't need a season two. He believes there's plenty of experience. He knows, like, he won the Europa League with Spurs last year, and Forest are on that. And dare I say it, I think the Europa League's even weaker this year than it was last year. So there's no reason why the likes of Forest and Villa can't do well. Celtic, Rangers, maybe looking at possible, they're not in the greatest form, but these European games can bring the best out of you, as we seen with Spurs last season. And of course,
just as we spoke about the games from last weekend, but that Old Firm was one of the worst games I watched.
That game doesn't even warrant being talked about. And of course, it's Crystal Palace are in the Conference League. But Owen, what a way to start the weekend. Big Ange is back, and look, I don't want to compare him to Jose Mourinho, because in terms of their statures, in terms of trophies, it's night and day. But is there a bit of a modern day Mourinho about Ange in terms? I know he's an older man as well, but different styles of play, of course, but very similar in front of the camera. Not afraid to be big and bold. He has a bit of crack with reporters, but also we see that style of him when he's angry. He'll have a go at them. He moans about the referees and the VAR quite a lot, and when they win, he'll just say things like, "Are you not entertained?" So you don't know what you're going to get with him, and like, I don't want to be disrespectful in Nottingham Forest, but if it had been anyone else in that press conference today, I don't think it gets as much airtime, because Ange, we know the way he is. It was kind of big news today when that press conference happened, and is it great for the Premier League that Big Ange is back?
No, I do. I enjoy his press conferences. I just have questions about, as we spoke about, does he suit the Premier League as he more of a cup manager? But as you said, if Forest win a cup and finish bottom half, I don't think they'll care. So it'll be interesting to see how it works. But I'm interested to see Forest play the Highline Spurs up because they don't have a Mickey Van de Ven with a recovery pace. I know they have Marlowe who's quick enough, but
Well, I'll tell you what, I watched the Serbia and England game and I seen Makalenkovic getting sent off and he had no pace. So I think
he's
that
slow.
has got to be danger. I mean, would it be not just, I mean, we says at times at Spurs it was bravery, but then there was times of foolish. Would it be really foolish for him to play the high line with what he's got at Forest? I mean, he's a very stubborn man and he says he sticks to his beliefs, but he did adapt for that Europa League. There's no doubt about it. Spurs had their lowest possession stats and they were playing more defensive in those games against Frankfurt and Bodo Glimt away. And of course, in the final, they one shot on target and won the game. So, will we see a more adaptable Ange at Nottingham Forest, or do you expect to see more of the same?
I generally think it'll be more of the same, but it'll be, at least for you, it'll be good to watch, and you won't have to have a heart attack every time. He's just, in a way, I respect it. He just says, you know what, I'm going to go out and do it my way, and if he's like it, tough. If he's like it or not, tough. But I'm really interested to see how he sets up here if he does go with the high line, because
he's only had 2 sessions. So, I mean, will he be able to change much for this game, or do you expect to see more of a Nuno type Forest and then more of a change as Forest?
I would think it's because it's his first game away to a much, much better team, so it could be a bit more conservative. Easy for me to say, conservative, but it's Ange, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Morello and Milinkovic stand at the halfway line. But if you speak of it, then like the forward players can hurt you on their day, like, and we know he likes to play attacking football, so it's going to be like this was a game I was going to watch it anyway, but this is a game now I'm watching more intrigued to watch it.
No, I'm actually in Coleraine for football, and the game's at 11, and I'll be over about 12, so I'll probably get back for the second half, but
yeah,
I'm kind of gutted I'm not going to see the full game, but and even the build up, because I think there'll be a lot of coverage with Ange and the TNT punditries and
it's just written that his first games against these old rivals.
Yeah, we'll come on to predictions very shortly, but Arsenal, Owen, I know we touched on them there. They defeated Anfield, and you said about the fear to maybe go and try and win the game and losing it. Of course, they bring in Hincapie on deadline day, who's a very good defender, and our defender that Arteta signed, and they do have a lot of strength and depth in that defensive area. You think about Ben White and Timber at right back, and then you think about Lewis Skelly and Hincapie at left back. Hincapie can also play as a centre half. They've got Saliba, they've got Gabriel. Raya is a very solid goalkeeper. Arteta clearly believes that one in the Premier League is going to be down to having a solid foundation. Now, they've picked up a few injuries already this season, and rumours Saliba could be out for this game as well. But, of course, they've got strength and depth there, like we talked about. How do you expect Arsenal to approach this game?
With them being at home, you would expect them to be on their front foot and going out for it.
You'd imagine that Eze comes onto the team.
Oh, he has to. Although I did see in international duties, Gyökeres had a bit of a stinker for Sweden, so that's going to be interesting. We have the better Swedish striker anyway. Just saying, but no,
they have to play him. I mean, they've been signed for big money. Like he's going to play.
But no, you would expect Arsenal to be in the front foot here and attack for us, because I'm not going to for me it's a must-win game already. Like they have to. I know only 4 games on, but just say hypothetically they drop points here and Liverpool and City and Chelsea all won. They're playing catch up already.
Yeah, I was actually saying this on Chris's show as well. If United were to go and beat City, like they could be 9 points behind Liverpool, which would be a big gap already. So already, just because of how good Liverpool you'd expect them to be and how good they were last year, you feel that dropping points now is just something you can't afford to do. Owen, prediction for this game.
Scary. I was going to say, it's scary too that Liverpool haven't played anywhere near their best, and we're still picking up points. So if we click on the gear and start playing well, it's scary. But my prediction for this game, I'm going to go 2-1 Arsenal.
I'm going to do the same predictions that on Chris's show. Just come off it there. I went for 2-1 Arsenal as well. Owen, moving on to the 3:00 games. Bournemouth take on Brighton. Now, we mentioned that Bournemouth beat Spurs last time out and Brighton beat Man City last time out. So both these teams come on off the back of good results. 2 teams that continue to be impressive. season on season. What kind of game are you expecting between these two teams? Of course, they're both very attacking teams. Brighton did have the upper hand last year in these games. They won both games by 2 goals. They won.
Was it last season or the season before there was a mad game between these two? I think I think one of them got a man sent off. Maybe I think it was these two anyway. But no, it's gonna be an attacking game because both managers like to play front foot football, and as you say, they're both coming on with confidence. They're both had big wins before the international break. I'm going to say there's goals in this one. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw.
Well, when you must have watched my podcast with Chris, I done the same 2-2 as well.
I haven't even seen it, to be honest.
Crystal Palace take on Sunderland at 3:00 as well. Of course, we spoke about Crystal Palace losing Eze, but managing to keep hold of Guehi. Sunderland have won 2 out of 3, both being at home. They lost their away game to Burnley. Crystal Palace last time out with a 3-0 win away at Villa. Both teams have had a decent start to the season by all accounts. How do you see this game going?
I think because Palace are at home, I'm going to go for them. I'm going to go 3-1 Palace.
3-1 Palace. Have you seen anything from Sunderland to suggest they've got a chance of staying up?
Oh, 100%. 100%. I said before this.
They went like the season, they brought on more players than them deadline day.
They brought on two. They brought on 2 players from Ajax. They brought on a player from Brobby, your man Brian Brobby, and your man Bertrand Traore used to play for Villa years ago.
Yeah.
They brought him on, and they brought on a man from PSG before the deadline, Mukiele or whatever. I think that's his name.
They play for Leipzig,
so they've the signing for them, but Xhaka, like how'd they manage to get Xhaka? Although when you're playing for Ten Hag, I think you would play for anyone other than whoever he's managing. But no, I think Sunderland, if they can, I think for all the promoted teams, it's important that they get results out of their home games. Now, I'm hoping the Burnley don't get a result out of their home game this weekend. But
I think Sunderland, going into this 4th game week, all the 3 promoted teams are unbeaten at home. They've either won or drew. So that's the kind of level they're going to have to hit weekly to get results and stay in this league.
Yeah. But I'm going to go for a Palace one. As I say, I'm going to go 3-1.
I don't 3-0 in this game. I don't 3-0 Palace. Also on Saturday at 3:00, a real classic Premier League fixture between 2 teams that have regularly featured for most of it. Everton take on Aston Villa. Like you said there, Villa have had a really wretched start to the season, yet they score a goal. Only 1 point from their first 3 games, and well beaten last time out by Crystal Palace at home. Everton have had a great start to the season after that disappointing opening night at Leeds. They've back-to-back wins against Brighton and Wolves, and they'll be looking to make a 2-2 here. Grealish has been excellent, 4 assists so far as well.
He's going into my fantasy team this week.
I'm sure Grealish will be up for this game too, playing against his former club. So, how do you see this game going? Of course, for years gone by, Villa have been the team that's been favourites in this game, but I think this weekend, Everton will definitely go on as favourites.
I'm looking forward to seeing. I might actually watch this game at 3:00, but I'm looking forward to seeing how Harvey Elliott gets on with Villa as well. Interesting to see how he develops. Obviously, he got sold in deadline day too.
Are you worried for Villa and Emery because they didn't have a great summer window? Like you said, they got Elliott towards the end there on deadline day, but
Sancho as well.
Right there, and like Emery's teams when they go on there, he finds it difficult to get out of it. And if they were to lose this, I think the pressure would really ramp up on it.
No, I agree, and I think they will lose this. I'm going to go 2-0 Everton.
I've went 2-1 Everton.
2-1.
Fulham take on Leeds. Fulham, like we pointed out earlier on in the show, were very harshly done by against Chelsea with that controversial disallowed goal. And Leeds and Newcastle. Leeds played Newcastle on a bit of a bore fest, but nevertheless, there was a point on the board, and Leeds are 4 points out of 6 at home. did, like you pointed out, away from home get battered by Arsenal 5-0, and they return to London this weekend. They take on Fulham. How do you see this game going? Owen, I know Fulham will be considered favourites, but I pointed this out in Chris's show that Fulham at home against the relegated 3 teams last year only managed 3 draws.
They were poor.
Fulham are kind of only
I'm not going to say that
they're heavy favourites. They struggle to justify it.
they don't. But then when they go and play like a Spurs or a Man United or a Liverpool, they always seem to up their game. So this is a tricky one, but I think they'll just about get over the line. I'm going to go for a 1-0 Fulham 1.
I actually went for 3-0 Fulham. Newcastle versus Wolves is the final 3:00 game, and this is the live game on Premier Sports Ireland for anyone that's watching in the south here. This will be on at 3:00. Newcastle won, yet they won, but probably unfortunate not to have won. They were the better team against Villa, better team against Liverpool, to be honest, and they were better team against Leeds, and they've only managed 2 points. Wolves.
They have a striker now, so no excuses.
Striker, yeah. Wolves have had a really tough start to the season. 3 defeats out of 3, and very similar to seasons gone by, where a manager has come in, done a good job, and then in the second season has struggled because players have been sold in the summer.
Yeah.
But I mean, looking at the promoted teams this year, is this going to be the toughest year Wolves have had to stay in the Premier League? Because the promoted 3 definitely look stronger than the last 2 sets of promoted teams.
Oh, they do, definitely. I don't know if I had Wolves in my bottom 3 this year, but I think you did.
Yeah.
I have Brentford in mind, but no, it is going to be tough. And it's another one. It's sort of similar to Villa. If they lose this game, Pereira could be under a bit of pressure. But again, who do you get on at Wolves? Like, because what do you expect from Wolves just to stay in the league? So, and I think this is going to be where Newcastle get their first one. I'm going to go for a 3-1 Newcastle 1.
I've actually went back on this one in Chris's show. I went for a 5-0 Newcastle 1. Owen, moving on to the 5:30 games, Saturday night football. It's the first of 2 London derbies on Sky Sports. West Ham and Spurs is the first one. Mohamed Kudus returns to West Ham. It's no secret he left on bad terms at West Ham. Fans do not like him.
Did you see this thing Fabianski back there already?
There's going to be a big reception for Kudus, I would imagine. Not a nice one. But West Ham, a tough start to the season. Of course, that Forest one was a great result. 3 late goals, they won the game. But I just wonder, Owen, did that paper over the cracks? You know, it was a bit of a freak result in the end, scoring all those late goals. Yeah. And from what we've seen in the 2 games against Sunderland and Chelsea, they've got major problems. Spurs will be looking to bounce back from that defeat to Bournemouth. And like you said, with Xavi Simmons and Muani to bring in, Spurs definitely look stronger. Now, Spurs haven't won at the London Stadium since Jose Mourinho won there in his first game as Spurs manager in 2019. So there has been a lot of draws between these 2 teams. But I said on Chris's podcast, I feel this is the best opportunity we'll get to end this record, because I don't think West Ham are that great.
Yeah.
How do you see this game going?
I think you'll batter them, to be honest. This is the game where I'm going back. I'm going to go 5-0 Spurs in this one. I think you'll batter them, to be honest.
I went for a moderate Spurs 3-0 1.
I just think watching them against funny enough, watching them against Chelsea, once they conceded the first goal, their heads just dropped. And Spurs.
That's what I'm saying on Chris's show. I think if Spurs get an early goal, it'll be comfortable.
So if Spurs get the first, because that stadium, it isn't great for atmosphere anyway.
Well, believe it or not, and Chris told me this on the podcast, that West Ham have put the game on general sale because they're struggling to sell tickets, which is pretty rare for a Premier League team to have to do that.
Especially
anyone can buy it, as you say, right, against Spurs too, because they see it as a big rival. But that means anyone can buy a ticket. You can go on to West Ham's website now and buy it. You don't have to be a member. So that is quite strange.
It's not a. I know that they're not happy with the ownership of David Sullivan. I know the other boy, David Gold, he passed away a few years ago, but it doesn't seem a happy camp there. And if Potter loses this, it'll just be. I don't even think he's a great coach. I've always had my reservations, but I think if he loses the Spurs one, it could be. I know he won against Forest, but one defeat, then it's all back to back to doom and
Yeah,
gloom.
especially if it's against Spurs as well, and having lost so heavily to Chelsea, an our London rival, it
Yeah.
would be if you tread in water. The second London derby, Brentford and Chelsea, probably not as much glamour around this game. We know West Ham and Spurs games have been dramatic over the years. There's been very few dramatic Brentford and Chelsea games. There's been a lot of draws between these two teams.
Yeah.
And a Saturday night, 8 o'clock game, sometimes the fans don't enjoy these games because it's very late in the evening for a Saturday night. And the issue, not so much in this case, but I know Spurs are playing Wolves in a couple of weeks' time, and the Wolves fans can't even get a train back. The Wolves, Chelsea ain't too bad because they're from London, but
is that an 8 o'clock kickoff on a Saturday too?
I believe that night that Spurs play Wolves at the Spurs Stadium on the 27th. I think it's the 27th of September, so 2 weeks' time. The last train from London to Wolves leaves 5 minutes before the game ends. So madness.
It's mad how they figure these. Is that to do with European football, or is it just
all scheduled for TV? But because the people ain't going to the games will love a Saturday night game at 8 o'clock, as opposed to at 12:30 maybe. So, but the match day going fans get shafted. So moving back to this game on, Chelsea were very impressive against West Ham, but in the two home games, I thought Fulham were in the ascendancy, and that goal decided changed the game, and they struggled to break down Palace. So hard to read into Chelsea so far because that West Ham game was a bit of an anomaly. We know West Ham have been struggling. We might learn more about Chelsea in this game. Brentford had a really difficult start. I mean, a lot of people tipped them for relegation, but Keith Andrews kind of went after the players after that Forest game, and he's got a reaction because they beat Villa, they beat Bournemouth in the League Cup, and they were very unlucky to lose to Sunderland. They really should have put the game to bed. They missed chances after chance, missed a penalty, and conceded 2 late goals. They lose the game from a position where they really should have won it. So I do think Brentford have stemmed the tide. And I think somewhere in Newcastle and Brentford will just be happy the window's over to get that Wissa deal over the line, get them out, and they can focus on themselves now. So it could be a tricky game for Chelsea because I've seen Keith Andrews talking this week about his mid-roidal up. He says, we're a lot of emphasis on long throws and might make it uncomfortable for Chelsea. I mean, we know Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville have said that their favourite ground to go to for a night game on Sky is Brentford.
It's always a ground when Liverpool are playing their away. I always have a worry about it. I always have a. It's funny when you mentioned Roy Delap. His son's actually out injured at the minute, so he'll not be playing in this game. I'm gonna go a 2-1 Chelsea 1 tight.
Yeah, I've gone for a 1-0 Chelsea 1. Moving on to Sunday on, you're below Liverpool.
Is Palmer fit or is he still injured?
Palmer's back. Moving on to Sunday, your beloved Liverpool are in action away at Turf Moor. Burnley didn't look that impressive against Spurs, but that beat Sunderland, and like you said, they competed at Old Trafford. So maybe Burnley are starting to get used to the Premier League. But I did say on Chris's podcast that United and Liverpool are in different stratospheres at the moment. So this will be a much more difficult game for Burnley. And to be honest, I can't see any other outcome than a Liverpool. I mean, I think this is the most given result of the weekend. I just don't see Liverpool dropping points in this game.
No, nearly. I'm gonna go for a 3-0 one for us.
Yeah. I've gone for a 3-0 one as well. And finally, on the Manchester derby, you did mention it earlier on about Donnarumma coming back or coming into the Premier League. Might not suit Pep's.
You think he starts his game?
If Trafford is dropped for Donnarumma,
two new goalkeepers in this game. United will start there now.
Well, but it'll be interesting to see if Donnarumma is asked to play with his feet. I'm sure United will plan for that and put him under pressure from the start. And like you say, Lamens is going to probably make his Man United debut. Of course, Onana moved on this evening on loan to Turkey. Binder's not look convincing, especially from crosses. So the competition isn't enough for Lamens to get his way in. But sorry, before you come on, this is a massive game for both teams. Not just because it's a derby, but because of the season.
Do you think it's for me? Maybe it's a bit strong, but for me, it's a must not lose for either of them.
I said that on Chris's show.
It's one of them.
I think if there is a loser here, I think in Man City's case, you would expect, although no, anyway, because the game's after Liverpool games, you would expect Liverpool to be on 12 points. Yeah. So if they were to lose this game or even draw it, 8-9 points is a lot to make up already at this stage of the season. And United, of course, they fell over the line against Burnley without the penalty, but it's been a dismal start to the season. Of course, going out of the League Cup to Grimsby, United would have been targeting a cup run because they've no European football. But they have had good results against Man City over the last few years, even when they've been in the gutter. You think about the 2 late goals last year. They won the game. The FA Cup final they won. So there's been some joy for United against Man City. And look, Man City have their problems as well. So, I mean, how do you see this game going?
I think it's going to be very tight. It's going to be very cagey. I'm going to sit on the fence here. I'm going to say there's no winner. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw.
I've gone for a 2-1 Man City 1, just because I've seen Haaland bang 5 goals on during the week there, and he's had a decent start to the season. I think he's got 2 in the league as well. No, sorry, he's got 3 in the league.
Actually, I looked at that.
So I think 8 goals from Haaland to start the season in country, that he might be the difference.
Norway won like 11-1, didn't they? that's
international game to make more sense though. But they battered Moldova. Norway.
I was going to speak on the Man United keeper. If that Man United keeper makes a big mistake,
it's a big game to come on, but Amram's got no choice. He has to put him on.
Because buying deep, you may as well put me in debt over buying dearly, because it's he's bad. He's a bad keeper.
Well, that is the end of the Premier League fixtures this weekend. Before we go, I suppose the Champions League draw was done as well. When I was on that flight to Puerto Rico, I'd love to be back on it, I'll tell you that. But I had to wait until I landed because there's no signal in the air. And from what I can see, Owen, the English teams have had decent draws. I mean, I don't really think any of them will be overly worried. I mean, Newcastle seem to have the tougher out of the English teams, but I do think they've every chance.
I knew we were going to get Real Madrid again. It was just rotten.
Yeah, and I mean, it's funny too, because I remember we were doing this podcast last year and somebody says to me, you don't play teams like Bodo Glimt and Frankfurt in the Champions League, and Spurs have got both of them.
I know. So you have got it easy. I think we have, if I remember right, off the top of my head, we have Atletico Madrid, Real Madrid, Inter Milan, Karabakh, Galatasaray. I think there's someone else I'm missing. But
I think Spurs
those are the ones.
PSG away is obviously a tough game, but I think Spurs will take confidence from the fact that they played them already and they were able to compete. Dortmund at home was the hour.
Who's playing first?
We've got a Villarreal at home, so I think our teams from pot 1 and pot 2 were PSG, Dortmund, Villarreal, and Frankfurt. So I think Spurs have done okay there.
You should expect Spurs. You should expect Spurs to win the majority.
Or Monaco, Bodo Glimt. Who else have I got?
The only game you would
Copenhagen.
The only game there that would really worry me from a Spurs point would be PSG. The rest of them you should breeze through. It's never that simple, but you should on paper.
Before a ball's kicked, have you got an early contender? I mean, I've seen the supercomputer today. They believe Liverpool are the favourites.
Probably predict. I mean, we're going to be up there. Like,
who will be holding the Champions League in Budapest on the 31st of May?
Well, I'm hoping obviously it's Liverpool, but I think there's something telling me about. I'm between two. I said PSG earlier, but there's something telling me about Bayern Munich this season.
I thought Bayern Munich as well. Interesting. But
I'm going to go.
These things, it all depends on the draw. I mean, Liverpool draw on PSG last year after finishing first was crazy, and you just don't know how the games are going to go.
I hope we finish about 9th this year and getting the one good.
And thanks for coming on. Always good to have the podcast back, and of course a brilliant weekend of football they look forward to. Hope you enjoy the games wherever you're watching them. If you're new around here, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe for more content. We'll be back on Monday, of course, because it is the start of the Champions League game, so we will be on this podcast more regularly now. So we'll discuss all the weekend action and look forward to those Champions League games. That will be our predictions for week 1. And of course, it is an exclusive Champions League week, so the games are actually split over Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday this week, and this week only. So I believe Spurs Villarreal on Tuesday night is the headline game. The Wednesday, you've got Liverpool, Atletico Madrid, or Bayern Munich, Chelsea. And then on Thursday night, I think it's Newcastle, Barcelona seems to be the headline game. So some big games this week to look forward to. And of course, we've just been waiting for Saturday. Tuesday and Wednesday, and even Thursday
Sunday.
games this week to look forward to. So great to be back.
It won't be the Europa League on Thursday, thank God. So it'll actually be decent football to watch for once.
That's it. Owen, thanks again for coming on. I'll see you very soon.
No bother. Cheers.